question that's quite interesting, and I'm going to try and keep the answer relatively short. Cheryl, you were asking about elephants in this area, if young bulls, juveniles if you want, and I know where the question comes from, if they ever give problems with rhino, if they ever harass rhino or kill rhino even, or whether the older bulls tend to keep them in check. Now, why I say that's I'll keep the answer short, is hopefully at some stage, Cheryl, if you're ever with us and it's raining and we do some questions and answers just from camp, please ask this question again, because there's a lot of interesting history and stories and understanding and conservation even in that question. But the short answer is, in this area it's not really such a big problem, or it's not a problem at all, even though it has been observed in Kruger before. I know that some of the Kruger vets, Marcus Hofmeyer, who is the vet at the moment, who used to be in Madikwe, and actually had quite a big role to an extent playing with the elephants in that area, and also Doug Grobler, the previous vet in this area. They have observed things like that before in Kruger, but it's not typical. It's something that will happen maybe under stressful conditions. So on days where maybe the elephants don't have very good sound and they struggle, they might do that. Just kidding, obviously. On days maybe when it's very dry, or when there's droughts, or there's very, very hard competition for food and water, they would do that to rhino, but that's something that you would find older elephant even doing. Typically, the behavior that you refer to, and I'm guessing here, Cheryl, but I'm guessing that you probably saw some of the programs surrounding the elephants in Pilanesberg, and then later on that went to other reserves as well, is where you had young elephants without the structure of older bulls, and they only had themselves basically to learn how to be grown-up elephant bulls. And that then went to all kinds of literally sexual frustration and misguided attention towards rhinos and so forth. So it's a problem that became quite prevalent in Pilanesberg, as well as Madikwe, and also in some private reserves in southern Africa. And then in the late 90s, they started moving big bull elephant. They moved 6 bulls to Pilanesberg as the first experiment. Very, very close friend of mine actually at the time was doing a lot of the research on it, and it worked tremendously well, because you had older bulls suddenly, they suppressed the must behavior in younger bulls, and because of that then those younger bulls then were less sexually driven, if you want, and less frustrated, and they weren't getting pushed away by females and matriarchs as much because they were bigger, more dominant bulls. So that's the basic short answer, and I know that doesn't sound that short, but there's a very long discussion about it as well. It's obviously something that I find very interesting. I spent quite a few years in Pilanesberg around that exact time. So those 6 bulls were amazing elephants. Tabo was the first bull, a massive elephant. He was 3 meters 64 at the shoulder, very, very big elephant, weighed about 6 tons already when he got there. Pilani, Mavusa, all those bulls came in, and that then set the trend as well for other reserves, Madikwe and other reserves around southern Africa, private reserves also, to when they do bring new elephant populations into areas, they make sure that they bring big bulls in as well. So in this area, because it's always been wild, there's always been elephants around, the behavior is much more natural, and it's not something that occurs to that same extent. But give it a year where there's very little food around, or it's really dry and there's not much water, and there's a lot of competition, elephant will still harass rhino, but they'll also chase away other things. They'll chase away zebra and whatever else is around wartholes. They become protective over resources, the same as I guess humans tend to be, when we sometimes find excuses for making wars over whatever reason, but resources normally is what it boils down to. But for the moment, let's just go and enjoy the night and see what we can find.